So if I was to then say to you, we are the cheapest agent, even though we are 0.5%, what does that mean?
I'm in the know. So if I hear I'm the cheapest agent and that's the selling point, for me, I ask, why are you selling yourself on that basis?
I hear time and time again, it's like, I don't want to price my house too cheap. Can you do that?
No, I will firmly believe you can't.
How do we set the perfect asking price?
So the perfect asking price for me is a 50-50 balance. You need to, first of all, be a little bit uncomfortable.
So hi, Chris from Harrison's Homes, and this week, Beyond the Sale, we're going to be talking about 5 points here, and tonight I have Ben from Harrison's. So, first of all, let's crack on. So, number one, common property pitfalls.
Good one. Interesting. I think the first one that comes to mind, it's got to be the cheapest agent or the cheap agent. It's very easy to make a decision regarding your home of, oh right, so you know, the public commonly, at least in my experience, feel we all do something very similar, which by and large for a lot of cases can be true. So it's not their fault specifically, but choosing the cheapest agent, that would be my first pitfall, because you know it's the same as, you know, they all say buy once, grow once and all of that. And if we all did the same thing, there is no way that the marketing and everything that we go about doing can vary that much in price in terms of pounds or pence.
Yeah. So good question for you. So obviously we're not the most, we're not the cheapest agent in the town. I know there may be a couple of other agents that might be slightly higher than us, but generally we tend to be 0.5% more. So question to you, so if I was to then say to you, we are the cheapest agent, even though we are 0.5%, what does that mean?
Right. See, I'm in the know. So if I hear I'm the cheapest agent and that's the selling point, for me, I ask, why are you selling yourself on that basis? I mean, you know, if you're the cheapest agent and you're shouting about it, I mean, what confidence? Me putting myself in the shoes of a home seller, I'd go, so your biggest selling point is that you're the cheapest. I want the most amount of money for my biggest asset.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've got a bit of a bridge the gap here. Why would I choose you just because you're the cheapest?
Yeah.
It doesn't always guarantee the same result. Like if anyone viewed through any agent, I mean, the first offer that comes in, by and large, unless you know the agent does something similar to what we do, which is expectation setting, offers are going to come in at the same sort of similar price. That is true, and that the public are okay with thinking that. But the difference in what you paid for is the advanced negotiation strategies and other such things that we offer.
Mm-hmm.
That is ultimately going to help our sellers walk away with, and in some cases, thousands, close to 10,000 more than some other agents might be able to achieve for them.
Yeah. So in essence, I suppose what you're trying to get to is we're not there just to sell properties and be the biggest one on a pie chart, something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, I get that all the time, you know, competitive, like, well, that they've sold loads of houses, the most houses in town, but that they're bragging about it and they're a bit cheaper than you guys. I'm like, that's great. We're not in that sort of marketplace of saying that we've sold the much. We don't want you to be another statistic on a pie chart. You're not just a little number that I can break to the next client about. For us, I've heard that conversation. That's great. There are agents that sell more, and that's not the game that we like to play. Here's the data that we measure. First offer to offer that gets agreed at that gap in terms of percentage, which at the moment is 3 times what we charge, which is something I'm personally really proud of.
Yep.
But I think you see that all the time is this sort of big ego fest of estate agents. Maybe that's why we get a bad name.
In fairness, I was there. So
how long ago was that? And how long have you been reformed?
5 years? 5 years? Yes, I've been in it, 20 plus. I mean, 22 years. And it's only really the last 5 years that I've always been driven, as I said, to get the best price. But ultimately, it was always one of those that it was driven by being number one. But again, we've got to do a bit of a change. You mentioned there advanced negotiation. What does that mean?
So we all do constant levels of training here in Harrison's about negotiations and strategies to ultimately maximise the sale price for any seller of ours. For me, it's part of one of our values, which is a lot of learning, and that's really important. Despite, you know, you've done the job 22 years, but I know that you're not naive enough to think there's nothing that you can't learn. Exactly. So the advanced negotiation strategies are just for us, you know, as I mentioned earlier, our whole ethos is achieving the maximum sale price. And that's just words unless we're applying ourselves as individuals to learn more.
Yeah.
And words hold no value. Like, especially when you're selling someone's home. If we're going in the living room and we say, great, we don't sell the most, we don't want to, but we will achieve you the most, unless we're learning and, we're all advanced negotiators and that's been certificated, unless we're actually trying to develop that and get better, we're just going to fall into the same mold.
But you just mentioned their certification. So is that something that happens within industry?
Oh, the industry as a whole. No, I was to say the office. The office kid, yes, that happens. I don't believe we have a competitor with that certification, which, not only is great for us for the knowledge aspects of it, but it's great for our sellers because, estate agents typically are not the greatest and most trustworthy, shall we say, people, are sometimes compared to politicians, potentially as estate agents. But you have something on paper, a certificate from a genuine source is, it's worth its weight in gold.
You mentioned just sellers there. So again, when we're talking about it, so it's not always just focused about sellers, is it? Obviously, going from what we're looking to do going forward, can we help potential buyers with what we have?
Well, definitely. I mean, we're estate agents, not selling agents. And so for us, we offer onwards negotiation as well. So say our sellers are, plenty of cases where they're moving to areas we don't cover, Cornwall, southwest areas like that, where we actually offer for clients or anyone really, any buyers in general, as long as they're not buying through us, because naturally that's conflict of interest. But we offer an onwards negotiation, so it's a full package. We're not selling agent, we're not just going to sell your home. We do the full circle. So if you're selling and you're buying on, great, can we help you with that?
Yeah.
So we'll actually you find the property, get in contact with us, we'll put, a plan together with you as the seller stroke buyer in this instance, and we'll work out exactly how to make sure you get your next home for the cheapest price possible. So for us, the whole focus on negotiation, yes, great. So maximise the sale price for our sellers and minimise their purchase price onward to ultimately give the best experience rather than just sell the house.
They have pitfalls.
Yeah, so overpricing comes to mind.
Okay.
Again, I think that's mostly fault of the agents. They go out there, something sits on the market for 6 months. They're going off of the agent's advice. And in some cases, I'm sure you've been there where you speak to someone and you deliver price based on data and confidence, especially with 22 years experience. But that specific seller would like to try it their way, and again, it goes against our 12-step plan anyway, so I know it's not something we entertain so much anymore. But overpricing is a huge, huge problem. This idea of, if it's worth X, should we do X plus 50? And then somebody will put a cheeky offer in, hopefully. Hopefully doing the keyword.
Yeah. I don't personally think there's such a thing as a cheeky offer, because again, you could do so many things with a lower offer. And is it low? It all depends on the market. There's a variety of different things, isn't there, really? But
it's a matter of opinion, isn't it? A low offer is a matter of opinion. If somebody's offering, it shows they're interested at that level. For them, as an individual, it's worth that. And, initially, it's our job as the agents to tap into the emotional side of that and trying to sort of really understand why they've offered on it, where they'll go and why they want it. It's really important for us to know a little bit about that.
Why do you think agents overprice? Do you think that? So I look at it from a variety of different matters. It could be potentially leadership. It could be agents that are targeted on just getting listings on the property. Obviously, I know you've come from a background from a corporate agency that we won't mention, but there's a slightly different ethos, isn't there, to how we are to maybe how you were sort of incentivised as an agent before?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's, if you're booking a market appraisal, or some agents call it a valuation, look out between the last 10 days of the month. Because agents will become, especially from corporate backgrounds, will become a lot more agreeable, which is half the problem. Imagine you're 2 listings away from your target in your big corporate agency, and you're not getting your commission at the end of the month unless you hit that target. You're starting to think of your family and needing the feed and the mortgages. You could find yourself in a position where, agent and seller have a slight disagreement on value, but agent just goes with whatever the seller wants to win the business, ties them in for 20 weeks, gets their contract signed and hits their target, which is, more matters to them, I suppose.
So you're telling me there that the agent is incentivised to list the property opposed to sell it?
Well, in both aspects.
Yeah.
So obviously they'll need to go onto the market and sell for agents in most corporate backgrounds, that's how the commission structure works, just to bring that wall down a bit. So they'll be incentivized to put it on the market, and if it sells, if they put it on the market and they sell it, they'll get paid twice on it, and that's how that works. So what you need to look at is, they're going to go on at an inflated price, but for that agent it doesn't matter, because we were doing 20-week contracts, not here at Harrison's, but in my previous job, 20-week contracts. That's a long time for the market to beat someone down on a price they knew it wasn't going to work out. There's a signed dotted line, they can't go anywhere else, they're held hostage, and really people are licensed to be lazy. After a few weeks, if it doesn't materialise, market, we'll have to drop the price.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've signed that contract 20 weeks, they end up dropping the price, and the data shows us that, you're going to walk away with about 80% of the original price after you reduce. So, for the sake of an agent trying to get a target, it's quite a sour way of doing business.
I'd have been absolutely loaded if I'd have been incentivised that way. But again, it doesn't sit really morally right. Again, it's the reason why we've obviously eliminated contracts from us, because at the end of the day, I don't believe in just listing own property. At the end of the day, it's going to cost personally me money, and that's not what we're all about. But so reasons homes may be stagnating.
Well, I think if we carry on with the pricing conversation,
That's my fault. Yeah.
There's two really main reasons why property would sell. Is the agent's not pushing it, whether that be the marketing or ringing it out effectively, speaking to the wrong people about it, for example, or ultimately pricing. I know how we go about our 12-step plan is price to entice, which, I found in recent times, especially with some, off the back of the 2022 boom and, just about recovering the market, I'm finding quite a lot that with pricing, it needs to make you feel that little bit uncomfortable. Like we had one, I won't mention the road name, but it was, one of them awkward ones. It's not quite 350, but it's certainly not 325. There's a gap there. It's a 25 grand gap. That's a life-changing amount of money for a lot of people. So that's me to give the best advice. Lots sitting on the market at 350. That's the competition. It would make sense. Oh, well, they're all on at 350. Let's go with. No, that's not what we did. They'd been on for a matter of months. We went offers over 325, and the whole feedback, and this is a real eye-opening experience for me. All the feedback was, why is this so cheap? The first offers that were coming in flying 10, 15 grand over the asking price. As I say, we had a 25 grand bridge to gap. It's not worth 350. It's not worth 325. We ended up in 12 days having multiple offers, a few non-proceedables and a few proceedables, drove the price up, tied it up with reservation agreement, bridged that gap to where it was truly worth, and it cost them 12 days rather than the last 12 weeks where the other ones are 350 on market. And we got just shy of that.
Yeah.
So
I think that it's the thing that I add to it is, again, I get it time and time again. Oh, my property's better than that one down the road, and that one's on at 350. Yeah, but that one's been on the market for the last 12 weeks, hasn't sold, so that one's probably more 325. Yours is probably more than that. I think, as I said, potentially the consumer looks at a price online and thinks that's actually what it's worth, which is not the case. Also, as well, is that it's not quite in relation to this question, but again, I hear time and time again, it's like, I don't want to price my house too cheap. Can you do that?
No, I will firm believer you can't.
Okay.
The example I always give to people is, let's say your house is worth 500,000.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer that if you put the house on offers over 400 or 600, you'd have the same result. The time scales would be very different.
Mm-hmm.
If a house is truly worth $500,000, and I'm not saying the one down the road's on $500,000, I mean, it's data showing that for the last 6 months, 3 on that road, same style, all sold, 495, 500, 505. It's a definitive point. I find that if you go on offers over 400, what will happen is you'll probably end up with about 100 inquiries.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably then end up with about 80 offers. Mm-hmm. And then we'll probably end up negotiating them 80 offers, driving the price up, providing you trust our negotiation strategy. And we will eventually bridge that gap to 500.
Mm-hmm.
That would be done in the first weekend. Will I want to deal with 80 offers? Absolutely not. But just by example, if we go on at 600, we'll find ourselves in a position that most sellers feel more comfortable in my experience, which is sitting on the market, waiting for someone, hopefully, to put that cheeky offer in. When you're trying to sell a house on hope, that's someone's biggest asset. Mm-hmm. That's not how you achieve the most amount of money, by hoping that the right person just happens to stumble over it on Rightmove, books a viewing, kind of in a good position, got a bit of money, that we can prove it, take the offer, please. That's just not the right way. That could take months. It could never materialise. In a lot of cases, you see on the market, it doesn't. So, yeah, I'm a firm believer you can't undersell.
Yeah, I think also as well is like, again, based on Rightmove data, 7 out of 10 people that were surveyed wouldn't view a house if they felt it was overpriced. So it can have an adverse effect. And again, the data, unfortunately, if you go on too high to reduce it, it ends up being more negative than what it would be positive just by testing that high price. So obviously, again, the 600 would be right. 400 probably isn't right, so you probably would want to market it offers over 475, so it's next bracket.
That's the way you'd want to do it.
Yeah.
So ideally, in that situation, forget the extreme examples of 100 below, 100 above. You'd want to market at that price, the next price bracket down, offers over, and then if somebody starts offering below that, you can divide them that it's offers over, but equal parts, having a low offer, and this is again gold dust here. Having any offer on your property puts you in such a great position, because I know for you and I, it's a great way to word things to other buyers. We're not allowed to discuss figures, but if there's an offer on the table, there's interest there, and we know that if they offer the same level, we can say, well, it's been tested, and it's not going to work. So again, it just cuts a load of the long-winded negotiation down the middle, and you get a cheeky or low offer, as a seller would call it.
I think with that as well, I've got a great case scenario. We had a property on the market a few years ago. It was on at 600. We had an offer come in at 575, and a cash buyer, really good buyer. Yeah. And she come back to me and she said, I can't take that. I was like, again, what was the reason why you can't take it? She went, well, I need to buy something at 575. And I was like, oh, well, okay, what's on the market? You said anything where you're moving? She was moving out of the area. Lo and behold, what she was trying to do is a sideward move, same sort of price. So 575. Well, if she got 600, she would have paid 600. So anyhow, lo and behold, I had a chat with the agent on behalf of her, and as I said, this property was on the market at 600. I ended up getting it for her 520. So she ended up saying, but the initial thought was, I can't sell it for 575. And look, we're always driven to get the top price, but ultimately we had a great buyer there in a good position, and she would have initially discarded it. So that, if she would have discarded that, then ultimately she could have been there sitting there for another number of weeks, maybe months, not selling, and ultimately not moving.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because a lot of agents in that situation would naturally go down the defensive route of, well, you don't need to buy at that level, well, you can't afford to buy at that level. And it seems very, like, I think that's what you're paying for in a business as well. Forget the negotiation and our focus is. But you've just given a prime example of what's the difference between a 1% and a 1.5% agent there is, right, you've got a seller with a problem, she can't. And it's not that she can't, it's that she wasn't educated in a different way of going about this. And I think you've just proven now, for the sake of 0.5%, you've just saved her £80,000 with onwards packages. So not only have you solved her issue, you've saved her £80,000.
So it's 55,000 better off.
So it's £65,000 better off, including paying our fee.
So yeah, give or take, baby size. There was a good 40,000 plus there.
Yeah. So best case for you, exactly. That's just that's crazy.
Another interesting one I've looked at recently, and again, we've only just got this data about the market. Really, really interesting. I was looking at the market back in 2022 to where we are now in 25. There are 2.5 times more properties on the market now than what there were back in 2022, when obviously there was a bit of a boom. So where the market is now, and we're getting asked this quite a lot, is what's the market doing? For me, the market's moving. It's just the problem we've got at the moment is there's more stock, less buyers. And again, a property could be potentially stagnating because you could be one of 10. So if you're one of 10 properties, and again, this is another thing that I think that we're quite unique, is if you've got an agent there with 10 properties similar, are they going to be driven to sell your property? Whereas with us, obviously, if we've got that individual property, we're more likely to sell that because we're only driven to sell that one property. But I think this could be another area as to why it is actually stagnating. It's just them making sure that it is priced correctly, which goes back to our first point of don't price it in amongst everything else. So you could just be one of those, and hopefully it sells because theirs is better than one down the road. But again, that's personal opinion, isn't it?
It was so true. I had to walk away from one. I was £100,000 drift from somebody.
Maybe telling me this, yeah.
Yeah, a few weeks back. Edge called in yesterday, so he was trying to go on market with somebody else, 1% agent, and that was actually my advice I gave him. But the advice me in which, when I'm in a situation like this, I think it blows sellers' minds that I'm like, okay, great. So based on the data, I see it here. I'm not saying I'm right. This is what I believe, and I don't want to lead you down the garden path for something else. If you wanted to try the higher figure, our 12-step plan won't work. So my best advice for you is go on with the cheapest agent you can find and give me a call if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
He was very thankful for that. But again, sometimes you just have to do that. If the price, because it is either the agent pushing it and being a proactive agent, back to your points earlier, and also the price.
Proactive. So, but all agents stick it on Rightmove.
No, that's, again, that's a misconception there. No, for the first 2 weeks, obviously, we do just off market, some respected buyers in our database, buyers that we know about in great positions, that maybe we've shown a couple of other properties to. We know they're serious, a general level of interest. And we aim to get 1 or 2 things, ideally offers, but then favour that feedback. Because again, if I say I was 100 grand adrift on this example, if all of the viewers came around and went in for about 5 off market, if they all come around and said, you're giving this away, I would pay 500 for this. And then I'm sitting there thinking, okay, great. I'll go back to the seller. Look, we've got this feedback. I put my hands up. This is why we do it off market. I was wrong in this instance. On the other side of that coin, it is you test the market. If we go to, it's all based on data. We don't have the benefit of experience until, a couple of weeks off market, you've been through the door, work out where we are. Because again, like you say, reducing the property on Rightmove is going to have a detrimental effect on the end result. Let's just iron this out in the first 2 weeks. Let us do all the work for the first 2 weeks, and then we'll see where we're at.
Isn't it? Yeah. Home selling myths debunked.
We go back to our cheeky offers. It's all tying in together, if you couldn't tell. Cheeky offers, and hoping that someone puts an offer in under the asking price, because there's no control over that. I think that is a massive myth, like you said. And that's a great stat. 70% of buyers that were surveyed by Rightmove wouldn't view it if they think it's overpriced. Well, I look at that is...
This was done a few years ago as well, so I wouldn't be surprised. I reckon it is, to be honest.
I look at that and I think, well, so that's 70%. Here's how I look at that as an agent, right? So I've actually got 30% opportunity on the portals. It's going to be a hopeful offer, which again, we can't control and we get the best result for you. And I'm charging you full fee and a little bit more than other agents in the town based on my advice and based on our strategies. It's just a relationship out the gate that's not really going to work, because we're going to end up charging more and get a similar result because we're not doing our strategy that ensures us with the data proving that we're going to negotiate 4.5%. And someone's going to put a cheeky offer in. It's so much harder because they'll just turn around and go, "We've been on the market for 3 months. Your agent showed us around and said there wasn't any offers on the table." That shows to me that there's one down the road that's 50 grand less, hence my offer of 50 grand less. It's like, that was only, you're only appealing to 30% of people. So cheeky offers and hoping that you're going to get a result that way, candidly and frankly, doesn't work.
I think also as well, just adding to it, I think it's from what the survey I did years and years ago was buyer behaviour, and one of the questions that always come up was, is there anybody else interested? And I think if you've got a situation there where you're stating to people there that no one else is interested and it's been on the market for 8 to 12 weeks, it unfortunately creates a negative vibe and a negative opinion that actually nobody else wants it. So again, it could come back to, it was probably too high, but that buyer's not going to know that. And ultimately, if you've got the scenario where actually we've got a couple of offers on the table, suddenly we're in a position there where somebody else wants it or another 2 people want it, and it's then we want something that somebody else.
It's a natural human instinct, isn't it? It's it's very important. I mean, properties are always sold in competition, not isolation. So I bought in isolation, 18 grand under the asking price.
This is a really good one, actually, isn't it? Because I remember I was having a conversation with this. The question that I had, so you just mentioned that you've got £18,000 under,
which was nearly 10% of the property value in my ad.
Okay, and You would have paid the asking price for that, wouldn't you?
I probably would have paid more than, to be fair, compared to what else was on the market.
So why didn't you?
Really easy. There was no other offers, and then they priced it way too. Well, I'll give you the full story. So they priced it really high from the start, and they had like no interest. It was on the market for 3 months at that point. In fact, it didn't even, and this is important as well, as a first-time buyer, it didn't even fall into my budget. I did not know that property existed in the area I bought in until the day they adjusted it. They adjusted the price, and then I saw it fell into my price practically. Went there, viewed it, and thought, with my cards close to my chest, that right, this is going to be my home. But I didn't say anything. Charlotte did, but we'll get into that. I didn't say anything. I didn't give too much away. But then I did offer on property. At the time, I think it was it'd been 20 grand. That's the asking price. Was my first offer, and the agent didn't really work out whether I liked it or I wanted it. And that's two very important things. The agent thought I liked the property, but they didn't think I wanted it. And I know it's always offered on it. Of course he wants it. But no, there's a real difference to me is if somebody wants it, they'll do anything they can to get it. And if somebody likes it, they may purchase it, but not go that far.
Very interesting. You just said to me there that at the time it was out of your price bracket, but you would have then found the money to pay the price it was at after actually going and viewing it.
Yeah, after going to view it, I mean, I compare it to the properties that were on the market. I mean, at the original marketing price, and the area I bought in is typical of overpricing. But if you compare it to what was on the market, I wasn't an estate agent, and I would think, well, that's an absolute bargain. It had its pitfalls in the property, there was work to be done, but for me, it was priced. When you look at the market, what was available at that time, and what it offered, it was price fairly. But it didn't sell because one reason or another, people knew that it is too high. And all the other ones that I'm comparing it to, again, with no, take away the fact I'm a estate agent, what was available at that time, it stood out. But equal parts, when you look at the data and what's sold, rather than what's just sat on the market for 3 months to compare to, you suddenly realise that although I got it 18 under, I actually got it at market value. That's the difference. And I would have paid full price for it, Chris, yes. I would have paid the extra 18.
But you didn't?
But I didn't.
And why? Because the agent didn't ask.
The agent didn't ask.
Even though your other half said that she would have paid more.
Charlotte said that she would have paid basically $8 grand more than we ended up paying for it on the viewing.
To the agent?
To the agent. Okay. And then when I came in 10 grand below what Charlotte said she would pay for it, they didn't refer me back to that. Now, if I heard that on a viewing, I said, can I just take you back to when, Charlotte said X, Y, and Z, you would offer this? Is that not the case there? Yeah. Some people say no, but ultimately, when you're bringing them back, you're already basically telling them, look, we know what you're going to pay for it, so let's just do it that way.
The bottom line is they cost their sellers £18,000 because they didn't listen.
Well, if you look at the grand scheme of things, and what I would look at is it actually costs them more from when they originally went on the market at the wrong advice. We said earlier 80% average of the original asking price, and these guys got it maybe 75% of their original. Yes, the percentages can be skewed at that end of the market, but nonetheless, imagine hearing that from an agent, oh, you're going to get this, and then you end up like almost 50 grand down on a first-time buyer style house. That's frankly, that's a terrible result. Great result for me, though. Absolutely.
How do we set the perfect asking price?
So the perfect asking price for me is a 50-50 balance. You need to, first of all, be a little bit uncomfortable with the price. So say they're all on an X, you want to just come in a little below X with that nice offers over approach. All of the interest in them start houses, like you sort of mentioned earlier, there's more properties on the market now than there was in 2022. As a result, the way the market is very different. There's a lot of competition. If you want to be a little bit below, you want to be a little bit below the competition. You have the offers over approach, which will make you feel uncomfortable, especially when you believe your house is better. I certainly agree that in some instances your home may be better, but if the other ones aren't selling, we're going to be in that same position. Come in a little lower. So that's 50% of it. The other 50% is they need to trust your agent. If you trust your agent based on everything that they say, like when I come in there, I speak in the living room, this is what we've negotiated on average, these are my last few deals, this is what we've been able to do for our clients, then this is what we're working towards, and this is how I'm going to do it for you. if they trust me and I give the right advice on price, that is how you, again, 12 days.
Yeah.
We bridged the gap to what everyone else was asking for. We went the other way around in 12 days, and they've been on the market for 12 weeks.
It's really interesting because, well, obviously you see some properties that are, say, for instance, 299,995, so like 99p on a pound. Why shouldn't you do that?
You're not on the price brackets on Rightmove.
What do you mean? Yeah, so when you're talking price brackets, again, just educate, obviously, the consumer out there if they're on the market at the moment and they're actually watching this video and thinking, actually, I'm marketed there. Why should they not? Talk to them about price brackets.
I guess you can use myself as an example. When I was buying, as I said, that house didn't fall into my budget. So when you're looking at Rightmove, I don't know what the exact data is, but it's got to be down there 100% of people are searching for their prices in there, right? You know, what you can look up to, whatever your agreement of principle will allow you to get to, or whatever your cash will allow you to get to. So you'll look up to a budget. And let's say, for example, in this instance, I've got a budget of 340,000. Let's say. Well, I'm going to search on the Rightmove price band the closest to 340 as possible. It's actually 350. Mm-hmm. So I'm now searching up to 350. But if somebody's on a 345, and then when I search up to 350, I'm going to see pages upon pages upon pages of 350 grand properties because it's in price ascending order. And then when I get to page 6, 7, 8, I might find your one at 345.
Yep.
Because I've gone through all the other ones that are priced at 350 and price ascending order.
So if you've got a budget, say for instance you've got up to 350 and there's a property there at 355, what are you then going to search? Are you going to search over that, or are you going to probably search up to your absolute maximum at 350?
I mean, as a buyer, most of the time, it does vary, but for the most part, I mean, 355, the market buyers, they know how estate agents price things, so they're not going to go all the way up to 375.
So which is the next bracket.
Which is the next bracket up mine. So 350, 375, 400. So if you're at 355, then my budget's 350. Even if I am looking at 375, still in price ascending order, because I've still got that 6-7 pages to get through before I even find your one.
But where I'm trying to get to is if it's marketed, say for instance, as a 355 and your budget is up to 350 and you only look up to 350, you're going to miss that property.
So you're never going to see it at all.
Yeah.
You're never going to see it at all. And even if you've got a budget of 375, you're still not going to see it because it's going to be so far out.
I'm going to do the reverse here, right? So say, for instance, there is a property at 299,995. Mm-hmm. And obviously we know that the brackets were at 290, 300, 325. So then you're marked at 299,995. Why would that be a bad thing in regards to missing out on potential buyers?
Again, at that point, it's a really weird pricing strategy to come out. I mean, it's almost, I'd say it's priced like a car list, isn't it? When I see, the whole thing with that, you take you back to even Tesco and £3.99 for this. It's because you see the £3 and think it's cheaper, but for me, that's great because everyone negotiates on a property, don't they? So if you're seeing something priced like a packet of ham, you're going to be drawn to that first figure. It starts with a 2, so your offer's never going to go with a 3. You'll never, we're looking at an offers over approach, you're being 299,950. That gap, despite the fact that it's £50 in the grand scheme of things different, you're never going to go off with a 3 because you're asking something with a 2 and you're just basically setting yourself up for a low offer once again.
I think as also where you've got where you've got the flip side of it and you've got somebody looking at their maximum budget, the way I see it is if you've got somebody there that has a low budget, their lower price bracket is 300 and they click 300 to 400, the way I see it is, yes, it may be at the lower level for them, but you've got somebody there with a good budget that might actually go for something along those lines, and they might then want to be able, they might be able to improve the property. So you're missing out, in my opinion, there on a really, really good buyer with a high budget. So for me, this is why I think you should make sure you keep it on that bracket point.
100%. That's a really good point, actually. And without thinking minimum budget as well, which it's very important.
Yeah.
And getting spot on, you will miss that. So not only are you giving advice that will not allow someone to, if you just buy a house and things like that, a big gap between sort of the 2 and the 3 in terms of 100,000, you wouldn't offer over into a 3 because that's not what you're looking at. And all equal parts, if you had a budget of 325, 350, and you would be open in a good place at 300, you're also going to miss that. So you priced yourself based on the agent's advice out of, again, most of the interest.
Yeah. I think, again, the other thing is again, I won't say we're perfect, we don't always get it right, we do not gamble. There may be times where I've gone out to a property and I thought, I think we can get that higher figure based on what's there, and we do get it wrong. But I think when you're talking then about actually adjusting the price, so for instance, I've seen time and time again where you've got a property marketed at 350, it's not 7, the next thing they reduce it down to 340. In my opinion, I don't think there's any point in actually adjusting it, because it's not going to have any form of impact, because it's still in that price bracket up to 350.
Yeah, so it has no impact. I think even at that £10 adjustment there, would that even register as an adjustment on Rightmove?
It's a couple of percent, so it will just it's a great point actually, because there are some there that reduce it just a couple of thousand, and it has more of a detrimental effect, if anything.
Can I take that back to weak agents? The best advice you give, again, uncomfortability on price isn't a bad thing at all. You trust your agent to go over the asking price, that's great. I can't tell you how many times I've had these conversations with sellers where, look, I'll put my hands up straight away. Look, when I came around to see you, we put a number on this based on the data, and then we'd say, now we've got the benefit of experience. The market is showing that, this level it's not quite working. However, if we was to drop the price to this level together, we would have a better result, and this is what you could expect. We would then tend to drop it to the next price bracket down, which, if we're talking 350, and, that's the reason they go to 340, because the seller's seeing that as the agent's taking £10,000 away. But that £10,000 was never promised, and it was never there, and it wasn't working at that point. Drop it to 25 grand, and the seller then feels uncomfortable, but there's trust in the agent.
Yeah.
I can't say how many times we've done that, and then, again, a bit similar to the example I gave, but in a couple of weeks, we've got multiple offers on it, because it's now priced competitively against everyone else. Multiple offers, bounce them off each other, best and finals, get to a point where we pretty much bridge the gap of the adjustment we made, and then you've got to have this trust, really.
Yeah. Damn. Hidden costs. Hidden costs today, seller be aware of.
I don't know if you'd categorise this as hidden costs, but, there is an EPC required for every property sale.
So what's an EPC?
It is an energy performance certificate. It will grade your home based on how efficient it is. I.e., they'll look at things like, keeping heat inside, etc., etc. So it's based on a point system. So, for example, if you look in your airing cupboard and you see your immersion tape, if that doesn't have insulation on it, I think insulation on the tank is above 2 or 3 points. It's scored, and then it's graded. You get a number as your score, and it falls into A, B, C, D, E, F, G, to the not area average, actually, the national average, I believe, is a D, from memory. Might be rods. But yeah, and then it's very rare you're going to get your B's and A's. I mean, if you are, you're talking solar panels and efficient this, efficient that.
But you're talking more modern houses, aren't you? So
absolutely. But again, I mean, the house I bought was a D, and it's almost 2 miles sometimes. So I wouldn't worry too much about it in that aspect, but it is required for house who are particularly.
Anything else?
Yes, I know we do this. I'm not sure everyone conforms to it in the town, but we do it. ID checks are mandatory. They're going to be done, and it's just part of the legislation we follow.
Yeah. Anything else there?
Yeah, other than, I suppose, there's some strategies of sell your house for free, and then when the first person knocks at the door, you hit them a bill from them just coming around. But we won't get into that too much. But some things just seem too good to be true. But in terms of hidden costs, I wouldn't.
I think so. If you look at the online agencies as well, again on paper they look really, really cheap, don't they? There's some there that do it for like a few £100, but again the hidden costs and what people don't realise then is they end up stacking it up with solicitors and mortgage referrals. So if you don't use this, then you have to pay this. So I think there's various different things. So if it looks too cheap,
it oftentimes is.
Yeah. So there could be areas there. Again, there could be performance fees. There could be agents there that may be a cheaper fee, but there's a performance fee. Fixed fees, I hate fixed fees personally.
Sort of license to be lazy.
Yeah, I think again, if we go back to what we talked about earlier on, there are agents there that will go out and quote a high price to get it on. They fix that price at that. It's never going to sell at that. They're in a 20-week contract. They're going to have to reduce it. Obviously, it could be anything 20, 30, 40,000. They're still going to have to pay that top fee. So that top fee may have been cheaper than us, but ultimately, when you flip it, it actually goes down. It's probably more expensive because it's never a true reflection of what the house is worth.
You highlighted a contract length. That strategy there only works for contract length. So I urge you, if you're planning on selling your home, no matter whether you're in Sittingbourne or anywhere else in the country, if one agent is giving you a great spiel about how amazing they are and they're far higher in terms of their estimation based on the appraisal than the other agents, and they're on a fixed fee and they offer a contract length, please be wary, because they leave that for a reason.
Yeah.
If you're tied in for 20 weeks and the advice is, oh, we'll easily get you 50 grand more than they will, blah, 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 blah. You're tied in for 20 weeks, you end up selling it at the price all the agents said, potentially a little bit more expensive, and you end up paying that fixed fee, which again, by the end of the day, is more expensive than the other agents on other fees.
I think as well, this is obviously going back to fixed fee side of things. I think when you're looking at, again, hidden areas, I think it's just, if you look at some agents, I know we've highlighted 20 weeks there. I think if anything, if you're going to do any sort of a contract, I don't think it should be anything more than 4. I know we're 0. I don't think it should be anything more than 4. But then you've got to then look at is what is the notice period. So this is another thing to actually look out for, because there are some I know they've got 4-week notice period. So that, even if they did a 4-week period, it's probably 8-week period. If they did a 12, it's 16. So I think that's the other thing, is just to double check what the actual contract term is. Because that's another area that, it might all sound hunky-dory at the very beginning. 4 to 6 weeks is probably at the point there where something needs to change. And if you've got no views or anything along those lines, then ultimately it's either the agent or the price is too high. It could be a case there you're losing trust in the agent if they come out and promise the world at a high figure.
Well, that's a problem I have with my corporate background, 20-week contracts. First 4 weeks is all rosy. You have a few viewings through the door. Everything seems like it's a prospect of something good. Goes quiet, drops off, and then 12 to 20 weeks, you've got, I can't tell you how many times, and this happens, by the way, when you're calling in every day as a seller, just hoping for some form of an update so you can take your family close to that school that you, when you was in the living room, promised would you'd make it happen for them. When that family is calling you every day, putting the pressure on you, there will be people in that office that are dodgy that phone call. I would urge you, stand outside the office when you call them. If your agent's ignored your calls for 2 or 3 days, stand outside the office and have a look how that office reacts when you call in. I promise you that if you're on a contract length and you're making them calls and you're not getting answers or calls back, call them and stand outside that office, and you'll be shocked.
Cool. Well, maybe that's a good bit of advice here that we've been able to provide today. If there is anything else, so obviously anybody has any questions about, obviously we'd like to obviously help. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Perfect.